Went to Iowa State where she got her MRS degree. Her husband, Bill, who's over there in the Navy sweater, was an Iowa State graduate. He worked at the Rock Island Arsenal as a civil engineer. He now is a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. Their son, Mark, is a chemical engineer working for 3M in St. Paul. Catherine got her BA in home economics education from Marycrest and taught home economics at Allman and Rock Island. She was the home economics teacher for the year in 1981. She has a master's of education from St. Ambrose. Catherine was an adjunct professor at Blackhawk College and Eastern Iowa Community College. She finished her career as a family and consumer science teacher in Davenport. After she retired, Catherine got a master's of museum studies from Western Illinois University. She did a practicum at the Rock Island County Historic Library. Another big part of Catherine's life is quilting. Quilts she has created or collected have appeared in books, magazines, and have been exhibited around the United States. She is a founding mother of the Iowa-Illinois Quilt Study Group. Catherine is her historian for the Mississippi Valley Quilters. Not a historian, but a herstorian. Catherine is active in the United Methodist Women, serving as circle leader, mission coordinator for her unit, and is vice president for the Southeast Iowa United Methodist Women Group. If time and energy exists, Catherine can be found reading, crocheting, or sleeping in her lazy girl. So Catherine. She went to Iowa State where she got her MRS degree. Her husband, Bill, who's over there in the Navy sweater, was an Iowa State graduate. He worked at the Rock Island Arsenal as a civil engineer. He now is a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. Their son, Mark, is a chemical engineer working for 3M in St. Paul. Catherine got her BA in home economics education from Marycrest and taught home economics at Allman and Rock Island. She was the home economics teacher for the year in 1981. She has a master's of education from St. Ambrose. Catherine was an adjunct professor at Blackhawk College and Eastern Iowa Community College. She finished her career as a family and consumer science teacher in Davenport. After she retired, Catherine got a master's of museum studies from Western Illinois University. She did a practicum at the Rock Island County Historic Library. Another big part of Catherine's life is quilting. Quilts she has created or collected have appeared in books, magazines, and have been exhibited around the United States. She is a founding mother of the Iowa-Illinois Quilt Study Group. Catherine is her historian for the Mississippi Valley Quilters. Not a historian, but a herstorian. Catherine is active in the United Methodist Women, serving as circle leader, mission coordinator for her unit, and is vice president for the Southeast Iowa United Methodist Women Group. If time and energy exists, Catherine can be found reading, crocheting, or sleeping in her lazy girl.
Textile clothes portion, and in computeries, once it's donated to a museum, it is no longer clothes, they are costumes. And I went to college to learn to tell you that. So what you're seeing today is that we are seeing costumes. The Rock Island County Historical Society has military, and what we have here is a group of Navy uniforms from World War II. They were on the first display I did several years ago. We then have a wonderful little girl's play dress with a bolero. It ties around the shoulder and buttons in the back, just as cute as can be. The blue dress with polka dots, the collar is boned, which means stiffened, contains pleats and lace and ribbon completing the bodice. There is a matching skirt, but that is not pictured. We think it's about 1940, but not 100% sure there. And it was donated by John Weaver. The little apron we see must have been a fun little hostess apron, and I hope Carolyn realizes this is her apron that she donated. It has the cotton ties and waistband and pockets. What a lovely organdy that is there. There's a fine line between what is house textiles and what is Clothes Loft textiles. And aprons to me should belong in the house. And we do have a wonderful pantry. How many of you have been into the butler's pantry at the Accott's and Peak House? All right, that's not even half. You do need to come and visit us, please.
December 7th.
Excuse me?
December 7th is the open
December
house.
7th in the open house, but you can always stop in sometimes and get sort of a preview at times. Okay, next one. If you've been a member for several years, you saw this dress in one of our newsletters we had for the Society. This is an actual Civil War dress. It is made of a wool chalet, which means it's a very... accessories. Okay, now this is accessories, yes. As you can see, my closet is quite full of shoes. So full that I don't have room for all of the shoes that we have. And the same thing goes for hats. We have lots and lots of hats. I have not yet figured out what is underneath all of that tissue paper in the hat closet, but one of these days, Jill and I are taking photographs of every item in the collection to put in our database. So do pray for us. Okay, now we're ready for Civil War dress. This dress is absolutely amazing. And the way I can so easily date it is by the construction. What do I do, turn it off? Let's see. Okay, here I am. All right, the main thing that we had when it comes to Civil War costumes is they wanted a very, very tiny waist. And so to make their waist tiny, one of the things they did is it comes down into a V. I don't know if you can see the V here in the front of the dress. And that just automatically makes your front longer and your hips smaller. When we go shopping, it's really hard to find that Basque, B-A-S-Q-U-E feature in the clothes we have today. Also, it's a plaid. Queen Victoria was queen and she wore a lot of plaid, and that came across the pond. The most interesting thing I found, that I was getting ready to have this on display and my helper says, there's pockets. The plaids are so perfectly matched that if the pocket wasn't open, you would not find it. And it's also such a huge, huge length around that dress, and yes, it would have been worn with hoops, is that this dress was hand and machine pieced by a Miss Nelson. So if anyone knows Miss Nelson from the 1860s, will you please let me know? And a Mrs. Edward Sweeney donated the dress. And again, if you know what Edward's wife's name is, I would be more than happy to add to this, to the situation. Another very finishing feature, again, is lots of trim. We see the purple ribbon here, but there are two sets of sleeve. Here on the sleeve, it's open and it's tied together, and there's a big yellow tassel on the end of that. The undersleeves come off, and that way they wouldn't get as dirty as they would other places. But this piece is just phenomenal. It opens and closes in the front, and there has been some major damage. It would take maybe 3 weeks for me to reweave that fabric, and I'm not going to do that. We have another Civil War piece coming up. This is an amazing piece. I don't even want to say it. It's silk, and it is a capelet, and around it and around the hat, I counted 193 hand-carved wooden buttons. And it did not get to come today because the thread that is holding the beads onto the garment and to the hat is rotted. And as we were just taking that picture, I don't know if you remember, Jill, that all of a sudden here are 3 beads. And we hope we can find many of them to do. But if I do anything to this dress, the first rule is do no harm, which means the beads will just be kept in a little bag close to the capelet that we do have. We have down that this is considered a poke bonnet. We had great difficulty figuring out how you would even wear this hat. It's got great big loopies of blue and tan, and it ties in the front. And Mrs. E.F. Cornell Jr. donated that, so if you know who Mrs. E.F. Corner is, please let me know so I can put that in our records. Thank you. Next one. One of the best parts about being a historian is knowing the story. And these costumes come alive when we read about the people who have donated them and wore them and some of the things that they did. The tan jacket is for the wedding of Mary Ann Dunker Van Hoek, H-O-E-K. It was a wedding dress circa about 1898 in Coal Valley. This bodice is all that is left of her wedding dress, and is quite worn. One of the loveliest feature is we think it's both silver or marcasite, but since I don't know what it is, I don't dare treat it. And that's one of the reasons it's showing up black. The green one came in, I want to say, was it back in October? This box came from the Northwest. And in it was Alma Friesberg, who married Gus Linvall, June 1889, and he was a pharmacist in Coal Valley. And one of the things about knowing who to ask questions is that this is made out of bombazine. I had never heard of bombazine. Have any of you beside Margaret heard of bombazine? Well, this is the dress that we have closest to me. Bombazine is where the long, which is the warp, are silk, and the crosswise threads are wool. And it makes a twill design. Any of you that have blue jeans, you've seen sort of that, how the fabric goes sideways. That's a twill. When I opened this jacket, I about fainted. It is the most gorgeous. She could wear it inside out. It is that beautiful. There is hand whip stitches. There is boning in this. The herringbone stitch that is used to hold the boning together, you can count threads to see the differences in how the length of her stitch is. There's lots of boning in here. She is all of a 22-inch waist. There are 16 buttons down her front. And we look at the styling where you kind of think newer, because please look how the darts come in and they form, they are gathering all of this up again with a very skinny waistline. And the same kind of features here with the princess line cuts again coming down. That point is called a basque, in case you don't learn anything today. Right? The most interesting thing in this dress that you'll need to come up, you may not touch the garments. I do have another pair of white gloves that are available. But one of the things you want to look at is here at the waistline. There's thousands of little pleats that are about eighth to a quarter inch in depth to gather this 100 and some inches around the bottom to a 22-inch waist. It's just a marvelous, marvelous piece. Okay? Okay. I need a historian to help me out, because I have two bodices that are very, very similar in design. The buttons are identical. Both dresses came from Coal Valley. There's that 9-year difference between 89 and 98. And I would really love to know, was there a seamstress in Coal Valley? I don't know. When I showed it to my friend who used to work at a very upscale wedding store, she says, the green one we have on display was made in France. And according to the granddaughter, Martha Linval Urban, her grandmother never went to France or knew anyone from France or knew who to call to make this dress. So gentlemen, when you look at the dress, I want you to think about how would you draw the pattern. I was stepping on it. Okay, here in the back, we have 3 inverted pleats. So how do you draw a flat pattern to get 3 inverted pleats? And then I would like you to look at the center panel here in the front. This is, your bustles are all gone now. And what we have here is how did they know to draw that pattern so we get all of this fullness. Look how beautifully it drapes into this dress. And there were a few men tailors, but men tailors wouldn't have done this. So some woman knew how to draft that pattern piece. I have a couple of history books that shows me how to draft medieval designs, but I'm not going to work with any medieval anythings for now. So I need a volunteer to come and do research to find me a seamstress in Coal Valley. Okay? All right, some of our women clothes. We have the most clothes are between about 1880 to 1930, with not that many in the 1930s. But what we have here is we have some of the lovely, lovely pieces in the collection. All right. At the very tippy top, that is pink, and yes, we have a pink wall and a turquoise wall, and that kind of helps show the colors just a little bit. So this first one is silk. It is netting and ruffles, and down the front are 15 stuffed rose teardrops. They're kind of hard to see, but these are all little funky teardrops, and they wiggle when you move. Okay, the blue one is actually green, and the fabric is woven with dots and lines in it. The top collar has a fine braid and velvet ivory trim. There's beautiful embroidery on it, and the skirt is 43 inches long, and it is 120 inches around the bottom, if we had the whole skirt there. And we really can't put a date on, but I'm guessing 1910. Then the other piece we have is here. It's the beautiful taupe file, which is F-A-I-L-L-E. On my bucket list, about near the bottom, it says, learn French fashion and food terms. And I think how close am I coming, Margaret? File? Okay. Again, the fitted waist. There are 6 buttons at the wrist. Several are missing. Notice that wonderful peplum. Usually a peplum is separate. That's the little thing that goes over the side, and how hers is drawn in. We measured her, and she was 22.5 inches, I believe it was, earlier. And the most wonderful thing is, notice those satin bands that are inset in her dress. And I did not make Jill count the pleats. Because of each one of the satin, there is the pleats all the way down. Just gorgeous. I thought was really interesting is that this piece had sort of that green color there too. Okay, it was a trousseau. She was going to wear this on her wedding trip, and that is Ida Schnell, S-C-H-E-L-L, Schnell. And she was born in 1848 and got married in 1872, but I don't have a husband's name. This dress was also worn by Edna Wilson to Charles H. White in 1912, so we knew the dress has to come before 1912. We have another wedding dress. This time it's from Josephine Christensen Crawford. The groom was Ira Crawford. The wedding was June 23rd, 1903, and was donated by William Christensen. And the embroidery on this is just phenomenal. Satin stitches, to me, is one of the hardest embroidery stitch there is to do, because the threads have to lay beside each other perfectly, or it looks funny. And we certainly wouldn't want anything looking funny. I get all kinds of surprises. I found this little plastic cosmetic case in the Clothes Loft, and I opened it up, and here is the peach-colored brocade. Again, it's another absolutely exquisite outfit, and that's one of the reasons here. The collar, the trim, the way the sleeve comes down. And one of the most interesting thing is, it is hooked and eyed. Let's see if I can do this. I think there's 17 hook and eye right here. And it was a commercial product where you could find all the hooks and eyes, and all you had to do is sew the two tapes in, and then that didn't cut a hole in your into your garment. Many of the fabrics were reused after they were finished wearing the outfit, and so by cutting buttonholes was almost sacrilege. Until you had enough fabric, you could really waste it. I'm guessing again, it seems a little older than 1910, but then the skirt started getting shorter and shorter till we hit the 20s. So I really don't know. I have no idea whose cosmetic case it was. We have several of the little plastic ornaments that came in the cosmetic case, but again, no story. All right. Hi, Jack. Hi, Jack. Jack is going to be our president for 2 more months, and he said he's going to come and help out and volunteer at Rich's. Well, I have a new job for you, Jack. I have a military room. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. When I came, each branch was together. So the Navy and the Army and the Air Force and the Marines, and I'm missing one, Army. Coast Guard. I don't have any Coast Guards. All right, and they were on a clothes rack, and the clothes rack fell and broke apart, and there's just uniforms all over the place. And I don't know if it was you, Bill, or if it was Orrin, who found this wonderful round rack that's even almost the same size as our tables. But the thing is, the uniforms are no longer by group, so they're all mixed up. Right? We do have, this is I'll admit, I was kind of naughty. Kelly Lau from the German American Heritage Center calls me up and says, I need World War II stuff. Not two, one. And I go, why? Well, because we're doing the Christmas truce at the German American Heritage Center. And I love it. I love that we're called riches and they're called gah. So this is one of the World War I pieces she did not get. It has a stand-up collar with a pin on one side that says US 58. And then there's a pin with two cannons crossed with an A underneath. Do you know anything that can help us out, Jack? No name.
I can't see it.
Okay. Could be the cross cannons. Could be.
Describe it again.
Okay. It's got cross cannons, and the letter A is underneath.
Artillery, probably.
Okay. And then US 58 over here. And again, when we're not given the story, it's really hard to tell. Okay, moving down is a Navy uniform. And the label inside of it is Naval Clothing Factory, and the owner's name, E.A. Lemke. Right? It has one left breast pocket with a bar pin, a World War II victory pin, an American campaign, 1941, a Navy good conduct stripe, and then stripes on the cuff, Seaman First Class, and a patch on the left sleeve says Motor Machinist. Isn't it wonderful having everything written out for me? Because I wouldn't know from one way to the other. All right. The last piece in this picture is a coat, which is double-breasted and has 14 brass buttons. The label in the neck is MCL, and then there's something I can't figure out, Company of Columbus O. Military and Society Goods. So this might have been a special purchase, I don't know. On the buttons, there's an eagle with a banner. National Union is what's on the banner and above the eagle. And anyone want to take a guess? Is up to me. What Lois found this jacket, and it wasn't even in her database when she found this double-breasted, and it's long. It's quite long. All right, so when it gets warmer, Jack will have you come up to the military loft, and you can have fun rearranging all of our military uniforms. Do you know we have very few everyday clothes? We had the children in this, junior historians were here Thursday, and they received some of the dresses that are in the library and asked one of the little boys, how come I don't have any little boy clothes? And they looked at him, Well, I says, because you get them dirty and you get them worn out. But we have very few boy clothes. Very few. But it is so true. How many of those everyday clothes will historians not know anything about? One of the reasons I said yes to Mary Hansen when I took this job is because I'm a clothes saver. I have the dress that I was wearing when Bill kissed me for the first time. Of course, I have my wedding thing, and I have all of my trousseau, and I think I kept every one of them. I'm a little appalled that I wore a 16-inch suit or skirt, with the vest being the same length as the skirt was, and a brown blouse and brown shoes, platforms, so I look a bit like Cher. And my son is going, oh, hallelujah, Mom's got a way to get rid of her clothes, oh yay. With my very first almond check, I went over to the Peterson Hanna Varmar store that was on Main Street. Help me out, the name, was it the Loft? Yeah. It was the Loft. And I bought a burgundy herringbone 3-piece suit. The jacket, the skirt, I think was 13 inches long, and bell-bottom trousers, and that took my whole almond paycheck, which is there. And then these blue jeans, and I tried to find out what key jeans were. We know Levi, we know Wrangler, but I have not been able to find out the key company, and it's on the front of the jeans. And a plaid shirt's a plaid shirt. So this could come from very early. Comment.
I am familiar with that key, and I grew up in northeast Missouri, and we lived on a farm, so I know the word key on clothing, that's all I know.
Okay,
That was a brand of overalls.
I guess it was a specific brand of overalls. Okay, they were sold in northwest Missouri. Okay, all right, ready? Oh, you always have to have an et cetera. In this case, we have a Hardy's Golf Classic Polo. The label is La Mode, size extra large. It was donated by Patricia, Mrs. John Johnson. Patricia was John's second wife. His first wife, Mary Louise Frank, the daughter of Theodore E. Frank, was minister of the First Congregational Church in Moline. Oh, don't y'all love a good story? Well, the second wife gave it to us. Anyone want to take a guess what this next one is? It's a Works mock from Venture. But I don't know who gave it to us. But again, how many would you think of? Well, gee. And I keep thinking, I would love to find something, the clothing with Geefmans on it. But I haven't seen anything, and that's been a long, long time. Okay? One of our newest acquisitions, oh, not either. This is a union suit. And all I had on the donor's name was Kathleen. Now I understand there's a Kathleen who comes to this church that frequently talks about underwear. Mary, can you help me out?
No.
Kathleen Susie?
She's not a member here.
Oh, she's not a member here?
No.
Oh,
She used to be.
she used to be. I was thinking she was asking for underwear or something. Never mind. Okay, well anyway, the union suit has 6 buttons on it, and in the back there is some stretchy knit in the back. The label says Maurice Rothschild, Chicago. And the price tag was $1.05. Ooh, yeah. Okay. We have a ladies size 46 wool swimsuit. Notice the Jansen logo. Oh, can we go back? There we go. And then up above here, there's Jansen. It says, made in USA, Peterson Harned von Mar of Davenport, Iowa. And Mother always joked she couldn't go swimming because her swimsuit had a hole in the knee. And this one is about 30 some inches long, so I could very well see that, yeah, there would be a hole in Mom's knee. But the wool, I do have one pair of trunks, and they also are moth damaged, and again, I have no donor. Okay, now we're ready for this dress. Okay, this dress came from Patty Joe's Costumes in Moline. Anyone know Patty's Costumes? Yeah. She had her big sale, and Charles Burrell of Milan purchased this. It is a size 10, made in China. It has the basque waistline that I've been talking about. We didn't measure the waist, Jill, so I can't tell you how little. But this dress has it all. It's got beads and tricks, oh, just more than you can do, and this beautiful train. The piece that we have around her neck actually goes around her head. Right? Turning pages with gloves is very much fun, huh? Okay. Okay, 100 years later, in 1890, we had a dress with bows and laces and ribbons and satin and beads and sequins and pearls and ruching. Ruching is gathered. And this one has a story. I just love it when there's stories. Okay. Oh, it is 12 inches across the shoulders. So it's not very big. It was donated by Mrs. W.J. It was worn by Nellie Hayes as the graduation valedictorian 1881 from Knox College. And it's got as much foo-foo as the 1980 does. Oh, what Princess Diane did to wedding dresses. Okay. Okay, children's. I was really, as I said before, I was really hoping that Linda or Jean Ingleson would be here. They donated a whole box full of wonderful little girl things that did not get worn out. And that is the pink snow pants and coat with fake fur. And buckles and sewing on, and the only thing missing is the string to hold the mittens together. But going back to the medium brown knit jumper, it's from Nob Hill of California, scoop neck and snaps at the crotch. It's 11 inches long, and this was worn by David Mueller, the son of Gerald and Joan Mueller of Taylor Ridge. The other little dress out here in the corner, all I have on it is it's a peach wool chalet with hand embroidery, 1920.